Anyway, I want to start out with a quick update of what's going on in Florida. A lot of people are not really that familiar with Florida. I talked to Dan about this. This is basically a map of Florida. The hurricane went ashore right around here, right away from Fort Myers, Lee County, and went up and out. The areas that have been devastated by the county, it's Lee County, parts of Henry, parts of Glades, parts of Charlotte, Highlands, and Okeechobee County were absolutely devastated. I bet that they're going to make this storm a Category 5 storm. The heart of the damage is down here. You can see the barrier islands down here that were totally wiped flat by the storm. So some of the facts about Florida. Florida is 378 miles north to south. The Keys are 81 miles long. That's this part down here. It's 440 miles from here to here, west to east or east to west. It's a pretty big state. Okay, population of 21,781,128. There are 43,687 licensed hams in the state of Florida, 8,930 which are ARRL members, which is a 2.04%. And hams totally are 0.2% of the population. The majority of the land in the map that I'm showing is either swamp.
Now.
It's okay. I'll get the map back up just a sec. How do I find that? Okay, here it is.
Map.
Okay, and then I need to bring this back over to here so I can read. The majority of the land in the state of Florida is either swamp, and the Everglades is basically all about down here. The populations are only along the coasts, but all of this inland is it's either the Everglades or it's a swamp. So there's none of the people really live inland in the southern part of Florida. It's either swamp or wildlife refuges like the Okeechobee, the different Everglades is a wildlife refuge, and there's other ones, or it's dedicated to agriculture like sugarcane, oranges, grapefruits, other citrus fruits, or cattle. This part of the state is huge in cattle and orange groves and citrus, and vegetables too, and landscaping trees. So that's, and like I said, this part of the state is what was absolutely devastated. And see if I can find my other thing that I was looking for. I'm not going to worry about that. But in any case, there were lots of schools and lots of people that have been made homeless. They can't get insurance. The state, Florida, has the highest insurance rates in the country. And a lot of the insurance companies are pulling out. And it's going to be a long term. It's going to take well over 2 or 3 years to rebuild. There was over 120 deaths so far, most of them in Lee County. There's thousands of people still in shelters or living with relatives. You know, the Red Cross is there, the Salvation Army is there. A lot of the local community groups are feeding people and assisting people. But a lot of the and obviously the police forces and the fire departments and the government people have also been directly influenced by this storm because a lot of their houses were hurt and destroyed too. So there's been a lot of local assistance from the state. For example, there's a task force from Miami, there's a task force from Broward, a task force from Brevard. They've been rotating going in to relieve the police and fire department forces down there. And they have a good enough communication system where they're able to communicate at helping each other out. It's still devastated. The short-term shelters have all closed because the county decided that they want to reopen the schools. And the schools that I'm going to be showing you tonight decided that in order to do something good for the community and give the community a boost, they had scheduled a contact with the International Space Station. But the school had been pretty heavily damaged, but they wanted to do something for the kids and for the parents and the teachers and the administrators to boost the morale of the community. And the Fort Myers Amateur Radio Club has a team of dedicated people to set up the contacts with NASA, and they meet all of the requirements that NASA has to do an ARRIS contact. And tonight, that's what I'm going to show as the main program. And this was the Canterbury School. So let me close this document. Open this one, and let me play this. And I'm going to fast forward it a little bit through because a lot of this is just pre-administrative stuff. We don't need to see this. And they're tracking, this is they're tracking the Expedition 68 crew as they start to come within range of the people. And this is a list of all of the crew members on the space station. And they're showing this to the audience as this happening. But some of the questions you're going to hear are absolutely amazing. These kids are absolutely incredible. And of course, behind the screen is where all the amateur radio activity is taking place. We'll see that in a little bit. And the pass is going to be 11 minutes and 4 seconds long. And it's fairly high up in the sky, so they have a decent shot at making a good contact, which they did once they made the contact. And I'm just going to fast forward through a lot of this. And this is just a feed from NASA, and they're just repeating that. And here is a view out of the space shuttle, out of the space station, not the space shuttle, the space station, as they're passing over the Pacific Ocean. And you can hear them calling out. So this is the North Pacific, and then they move along.
I'm not hearing any audio from your video. Barry? Barry, should there be audio there?
And the amateurs are all behind the screen, so you can't see the behind the scenes yet. But after the contact, they'll raise up the screen, and you'll be able to see everything that they're doing.
Barry?
Yes?
Is there supposed to be audio with that movie?
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
Do you not hear the audio in the background?
No, not at all. Did you check those boxes when you went to share your screen?
Hold on. Let me stop it. Which boxes do I need to check?
Well, uncheck your screen and then,
Okay.
and share your desktop again, and you'll see
Okay.
your options down there in the lower right hand side of your where you get to choose things. The audio.
Okay. Where do I go? Share. Lower right.
I think I'm remembering it being in the lower right.
Oh, I hear sound. I see it.
Yep.
And optimize the video clip. Go back to here. Go back to here. Play. Now do you hear it?
Yes.
Okay. Now they're over the North Pacific. I'm going to fast forward. I think. Here, they're getting ready. These are the kids that are going to be asking the questions. I think this young kid here, dressed in the spacesuit, is great. They're going over Idaho.
I thought we were supposed to be here.
To be honest, most of them they're not gonna make. They're gonna be here with their fathers.
Yeah, but like, where is everybody? What is required to be here?
They might be in the multi-sport center, psych center. Oh, the advisory? Huh?
Am I supposed to hear you guys? Okay. I was just making sure.
No, they're not supposed to be.
Oh, I can hear you.
They hear me. Like,
I can hear you very slightly.
you hear me? Okay. I don't do it. I don't have any mic.
They're viewing it from Vimeo.
November Alpha 1, Sierra Sierra, Whiskey 4, Lima X-ray, over. November Alpha 1, Sierra Sierra, Whiskey 4, Lima X-ray for scheduled ARRIS contact, over. November Alpha 1, Sierra Sierra, Whiskey 4, Lima X-ray for scheduled ARRIS contact, over. November Alpha 1, Sierra Sierra, Whiskey 4, Lima X-ray for scheduled ARRIS contact, over.
Hello, Canterbury School. This is Josh, and welcome aboard the International Space Station. Over.
John Casada, this is Brian Darley with Fort Myers Amateur Radio Club with Canterbury. Are you ready for our students? Over.
NA1SS is ready. Over.
Question is from Nina. She is 3 years old. Nina would like to know.
Can you come into space?
Over.
Nina, what a question. Space is awesome, and somehow it would be even more awesome with cupcakes. We don't have an oven, but we did have cake in a tube. It came out like toothpaste, and it was pretty good. Over.
This is Layton. She is 4 years old, and she would like to know.
How do you not get lost in space?
Hey, Layton, it's super easy to get lost in space when you get flipped upside down. And I think that the easiest way to get lost is to not know where you are. so the first thing I do when I feel like I'm getting lost is I don't believe my eyes. I just see what I see and then make a map in my mind. And that way I can figure out where I really am, and then I'm not lost.
My name is Isaac, and I'm in first grade. I'm 6. Does the sun look different from the ISS? Over.
Hey, Isaac, we are above the atmosphere up here, so I have noticed that the sun even seems brighter up here. Every so often I'll float by a window and I'll catch a glimpse of the sun, even sometimes on accident, and it is really, really bright. Over.
My name is Samantha. I'm in first grade. If you could travel to any planet, which one would you go to?
Over.
There are some amazing planets out there, I'll tell you, but my honest to goodness opinion is my favorite one is the one we're looking down on. And I'm really excited about the work that I'm doing up here with my crewmates, but I'm also really, really excited to get back to planet Earth and see my family and friends. Over.
Hi, my name is Emily San. I'm in second grade, and my question is, what is your favorite meal in space?
Hi, Emmy. Well, this isn't true on the ground, but for some reason I found myself really enjoying soup up here. It's warm, and we get some ramen soup, and it just tastes perfect with a little bit of meat. Over.
My name's Madison, and I'm in first grade. Are more women astronauts training to go to the moon? Over.
Hi, Madison. We have some amazing female crew members. We've got 2 on board here who are absolutely incredible. And yes, we have both men and women who are training very hard to go to the moon, and we should be there in several years, and maybe you can even be part of that. Over.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm in 5th grade, and my question is, what is the most extraordinary thing you have ever seen in space? Over.
Hey, Chloe. Well, I've been up here for only 2.5 weeks. Our mission is just getting started. But I'll tell you, the most extraordinary thing that I've seen is looking out that window and seeing that incredibly thin atmosphere that makes us an incredibly lucky planet and sustains life where we don't see it on any other planets yet. Over.
My name is Dira. I'm in 6th grade, and my question is, how does space debris affect satellites in the ISS?
A problem sometimes. There are certain things that are out there that could pose a threat to the International Space Station. So we have really, really smart people on the ground who track these things and make sure we stay safe. And so if we have to, we even move the space station just a little bit to get out of the way. Over.
Hey, Max Evans with 9th grade. How old were you when you decided that you wanted to go on the ISS? Over.
Hi, Max. I was probably just a couple years younger than you when I knew that I wanted to become an astronaut. I followed the space shuttle program pretty closely, but back then the space station didn't exist yet. But I'll tell you, I'm incredibly lucky to be up here living a life of an astronaut who gets to do some science and some hardware work as well. Over.
Hello, my name is Anthony Corbellini, and I'm currently in 10th grade, and I want to know, is it hard to get used to Earth's gravity after spending so much time on the ISS? Over.
Hi, Anthony. That is absolutely an issue that we have to work hard to combat. When we hit the ground, we do find ourselves having some problems with vestibular issues, but we're very strong, but we do have to do a bunch of work to make sure that we're steady on our feet. And it usually takes a week or two before we feel pretty good, and maybe even a little bit longer before we even can do things like drive a car. Over.
Hi, my name is Aaron. I'm a junior in high school, and I have maybe a little bit of a different question than you're used to, but what would you say or show to people who are convinced that space and the ISS is a hoax?
Hi, Aaron. I think it's a great question because, unfortunately, it does happen from time to time. And I think those people would understand if they spent a little bit of time studying physics that it's certainly possible to do this. Actually doing it, all I have to do is tell them that nobody can really keep a secret for very long, and nobody could keep this secret this big for 60 years. It's just an amazing thing to be a part of, and I really hope that everybody can participate and enjoy it through us. Over.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm in 5th grade, and my question is, what kind of research are you currently working on?
Hi, Chloe. Well, today, for example, I woke up early and I drew my own blood and put it in some tubes and in a centrifuge because the scientists really track to see how space is affecting our human bodies. We're also doing a lot of different physics and biology. My good friend Frank just grew some tomatoes here on the space station so we can maximize the use of soil and hopefully use that for deep space exploration. Over.
Hi, my name is Zira. I'm in 6th grade, and my question is, would you be willing to live on the new moon base once it's built?
Hi, Zira. I think I heard you ask if I'd be willing to live on a moon base. And boy, that would be quite an experience. I would love to do something like that, but I certainly wouldn't want to be gone too long from my friends and family. Over.
Hey, Max Evans with 9th grade. What does it feel like to experience that many G's of acceleration when taking off from Earth?
Hi, Max. I was expecting these G's to be it's different than flying in an airplane where the G's actually go from your head down to your feet. In this case, it's going through your chest, so it really just felt like somebody heavy was sitting on our chest. But it only lasts for a little while, and then when it cuts off, you are floating in your seat.
Hi, this is Christiana Dieter, 34, science teacher, and my question for you is if you have any words for our community, especially those who were recently affected by the devastating Hurricane Ian. Over.
I absolutely do, and thank you for bringing up that important topic. We launched from the Kennedy Space Center not more than a week after and all our thoughts go out to those families who were affected by Ian. And it was so remarkable to see the support that we received in Florida and how they were able to deal with Ian, put everything back together, and then get us off the launch pad and headed to the International Space Station. It really speaks to the heart and the character of Floridians. Over.
Thank you so much. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate your time. And from Canterbury School, all of our thanks, and stay safe up there. 73, and stay tuned for a big cheer from Canterbury.
This is Whiskey 4 Lima X-Ray signing off with November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra.
All right. What an awesome experience. I'm so proud to be a Canterbury Cougar. I'm proud of our students, our science department, our teachers. What an amazing day. Let's hear it for them. We just talked to the International Space Station on a radio that we built. A ham radio that we built, our students built. An amazing day. How many of you would want to work in space now or go to the moon or maybe even go to Mars? Raise your hands. Wow. Got a lot of future Cougar astronauts. So I guess we'll be talking to you then when you guys are orbiting. And thank you so much again to ARRIS and CenturyLink and all the good people who've worked on this project. Amazing day for Canterbury. Thank you so much.
Now they show the behind the scenes.
We have a little bit of behind the scenes if you guys are interested. If the booth in the back, if you'll please roll the screen up. So we want to show you all of the stuff you couldn't see while the contact was happening. So these are all of the men and women who helped us make sure that this contact happened, as well as our school station. And you can see the cords going up to the roof where the actual antennas were that tracked across the sky. And I would just really love to give a big round of applause to all of the people who made this happen. A couple of names. Brian Darley is the one who was on campus helping our students. He was here for hours and hours setting things up on our roof. He volunteered his time graciously to come and help us from the very start, and this would not have happened without Brian. So if we can give Brian a round of applause. Oh, there he is. I found him. And we also have Charlie, our ARRIS mentor, who helped us to go through all of the crazy paperwork. The Fort Myers Amateur Radio Club, who wants nothing more than to get our kids in love with radios and space and STEM and technology. They have been an incredible resource, and they are a bunch of fun guys. I have had a blast hanging out with them while all of this is happening. To our group of seniors, especially led by JJ Ignac, who worked very, very hard to build the technology. They learned coding and soldering and welding and anything else you can imagine they learned how to do and on the fly, and they have worked so hard, especially with the time taken away from the hurricane. So I just want to say what a great job for them and what an incredible opportunity. And finally, to our admin, to Rick and Katie Tanner, to everyone who listened to me talk about space until I'm sure they thought I was crazy and how excited I was, and they put up with it, and they just made everything happen, as well as my mom who's here today, and my husband for taking care of the kids while I was able to be here and do all of this. So thank you to the school, because at Canterbury we can do this kind of stuff. So thank you. All right, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I believe you guys can go on back to class. Not going to be as much fun as this, but have fun.
Okay. Well, that was interesting. One of these days, we're going to get someone to explain the process. It's months and months and months of paperwork, and they have to put together a curriculum, and they have to do STEM things, and it's actually 5 minutes of terror just before when the contact is supposed to start, when you're calling the space station and they don't answer back right away. And the poor radio operators, having been in that seat before, is really a blood pressure raising event. But they eventually did make the contact, and it raised the spirits of this school something terrible. So let me close this and share. And does anybody have any questions? Dan? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
And,
Does anyone have?
Anybody got any?
And, as far as emergency communications, the ability to be able to make contacts in space someday is going to be a big thing for MCOM. Yes, we need to learn how to go through satellites and move and orbiting manned object in the upper atmosphere in space. For MCOM, that's probably one of the most reliable means of communications that you could have. because if it's orbiting in space, it's probably safe. Where repeaters and antennas and other equipment on the ground can be destroyed by natural forces when you're above the atmosphere, you could kind of avoid that. And I know they're working on getting a geostationary satellite up above the United States for something like this, which would be a great boon to MCOM if we would be able to use something like that. As far as the Fort Myers Amateur Radio Club, they've had some of their members had their houses destroyed, some of them had their shacks destroyed, and they're all working together to help rebuild their ham radio equipment just as well as rebuild their communities.
There's a question, and somebody wants to know, Michael, it looks like. Where did you get the video, and can you share the link in chat?
I sure can. The video is available. Actually, I'll send it to Dan, and Dan can send it out to the in the mailing list. But yes, this is a publicly available link, and yes, you can use it, and it's free to show at different clubs and different groups, and and to and having been involved with a dozen ARRIS contacts, it's an amazing thing. It really is. And we need to have follow-up now with ARRIS stuff, because now we have a whole school of people that want to get the ham radio licenses because they saw how the hams do this. And it's a STEM activity. And now we need to follow up and to be sure that anyone that's interested can get interested and gets followed up with. The Fort Myers Club is one of the most amazing clubs in the whole United States. So they have plans to do that.
Okay, Dave wants to know, can you describe your group's response to the hurricane?
Okay, the response to the hurricane was we activated ARRIS to a level 1, the highest level that we can activate. The county EOC in Lee County was staffed 24 hours a day for a weekend. The Collier County EOC was staffed the same way. The Okeechobee County wasn't staffed that much because it's a sparsely populated community, but we did have ham radio available there. The interesting thing about Okeechobee County was they opened up a whole bunch of animal shelters for people's animals to be properly sheltered, and they took animals from all over the state, and we have a team of hams that are certified as animal shelter staff. And so they activated the hams for the animal shelter staff, and they set up an amateur radio station in the animal shelter. Not that the animals could contact people via ham radio, but we had people there to be able to handle the logistics. I mean, this was a large, 400 or 500 animals to be taken care of, and we were able to provide them with logistics. The Red Cross was here, and we provided communications for the various shelters, and that's ongoing today. I mean, they still have over 1,000 people in the shelters in the greater Fort Myers area. And we have, although they have cell phones back in the majority of the cases, we still are having hams out there that are handling health and welfare traffic and various regular radio communications for the staff. Because they're basically focused on their clients, and they don't have a lot of time to use radios to get equipment. So we're providing them with communications via amateur via radio and stuff like that. Have teams, and we had teams ready, available to go into the different communities if we were asked. Fortunately, Florida is pretty resilient, and we had a lot of the public safety service access points. I think 6 of the public service access points lost all of their communications to reroute the 911 calls to different public service access points outside the affected area, so they were able to handle the 911 calls pretty well. But we had people ready to go, and we had communications with the state EOC, which is up in Tallahassee, via something called the Florida SARNet, which is a 440 megahertz linked system. I think there are 30 repeaters that are linked in SARNet, and we were able to provide them with communities, so they had the situation awareness that they knew what was going on in the communities, and of course, with the Lee County people, they were also able to help them out. And we're going to be doing a full after action report. This is still in the Lee County area. This is still on full activation. There are so many people and so many houses and so many people without power out there. So this is still an active situation up there, but the rest of the state is trying to get back to normal.
Are the hams being used for the eyes and ears for the authorities where they can use them?
Yes, most definitely. They're not fully activated, but they're activated enough so they can do that. They're providing a lot of neighborhood. They're going with people and they're doing damage surveys and stuff like that, and they're providing that to the counties so they have an idea of what's happening. The interesting thing, like I said, barrier islands, the Captiva Island and Sanibel Island, they had bridges from the mainland that went out there. The bridges were totally wiped out by the storm, so there was no way for any of the people that decided to stay on the islands and refused to evacuate to get back to the mainland. And at the same time, there was no way from the people in the mainland to respond out to Captiva and Sanibel Islands. Fortunately, the Coast Guard was out there, and the Coast Guard brought in some heavy-duty helicopters, and they were actually helicoptering over vehicles to, all-terrain vehicles and stuff, and food and water to help the people that survive even better. And it's still those islands like it looked like they're totally flattened. It's really a serious situation, and most of the people from there have now been evacuated. They're working very hard to rebuild the bridges so they can get regular vehicle traffic out there. But it's still a very volatile situation.
Are your local news stations keeping day-to-day the public updated with what's going on?
Some of the TV and radio stations had their antennas destroyed, so there were like a dozen radio stations and I think 3 TV stations that were taken off of the air. But yes, the local news and even the national news. Well, most of the national news people have gone home, but the local news people are doing a good job of keeping the people involved, and they're letting them know where to go for resources, where to go for food, where to go to get an insurance adjuster, and the phone systems are coming. The people can call them, although I understand it's a 4-month wait to get an insurance adjuster out there. So yeah, we're taking care of all of that.
Okay, I'm doing all the talking. Does anybody got any hands up or more questions put in chat?
And you're watching 2 systems still. There's one system that's off of the East Coast. It looks like it's going to be heading up towards the New England area. And there's one that's just off of Venezuela, and it could be making a curve up and going into Mexico. So we have to keep alert because the hurricane season lasts till November 30th.
Yeah, that's all you need is more of the bad stuff after that last one went through.
And you can go online and search for historical hurricanes in Florida, and you can see why we have to be totally alert all of the time, because there's been 300 or 400 hurricanes that historically hit Florida. I mean, if you look at the map, the lines cover the entire state. But it's interesting, there's one part of Florida that's never taken a direct hit from a hurricane. For some strange geographical reason, Tampa has never taken a direct hit from a hurricane. All of the other parts of Florida have, but Tampa Bay has never taken a direct hit from a hurricane. It's very interesting.
Raymond, you got your hand up.
Hi, yes, I do. Yeah, I certainly hope that Florida does get a speedy recovery, although it does seem like with the damage, it's going to be quite the effort. But circling back to the ARRIS contact, of course, that got my interest because September 27th, we had our annual Big E fair in Springfield, and which drew over 1.6 million people over 2 weeks. And we actually had a booth there, and to add a little flavor to it, we actually had an ARRIS contact. So I definitely know what it's like to have that kind of work involved in setting up one of those contacts, especially whereas we didn't do a direct contact like the school there did. The Big E actually gave us the stage, gave us the stage crew, and gave us a sound crew, all for gratis, to set this thing up on their big stage. So the work involved with that definitely magnified itself because we actually did a stage production. And the paperwork, yeah, we don't want to go there. Fortunately, the ARRIS mentor was New England director, Fred Kemmerer, and he did a good job of trying to keep things coordinated. And I was actually part of the technical planning committee to make sure that everything was connecting properly, because we did a Telbridge method. And so the, just to make sure that everything was just timed. We even had a sound production crew that they did a lot of the video work and the camera coordination and all that. So just to get all those pieces together, I mean, I got involved in July and we had it in September, and there was people already 2 months into it when I got going on it. So yeah, it's a good job, but yeah, it's definitely a fantastic experience for the kids to talk to those astronauts there. And yeah, our kids were jumping up and down for joy when they got through with that one, and especially on a big stage like that. I think that was just an extra added treat for them. Figured I'd let you know, and I do have the video. If anybody wants to see it, I'll put it in the text.
Yeah, it is. The behind the scenes is absolutely amazing, and NASA has such strict requirements. This has to be up to a backup to a backup, and 3 different antennas, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, the backups were insane. We had to have a backup in case of bad weather. We had to actually have a full working Telbridge station inside the Big E in case we had to run inside. So yeah, definitely. And of course, we had to do the setup. We had to work around all the people there. We couldn't have vehicles in the fairgrounds after 9:30. So it's either late in the day or early in the morning that we had to do the work. Fortunately, we had the Big E management and staff and everybody. They put in a lot of time and effort, just as much as we put in ours just to get the paperwork done. But yeah, it went off flawlessly, and it was a great event. So it's great that you guys had something like that down there, like I said, to boost the morale, because yes, situations out there can be pretty depressing.
Mm-hmm. And yes, the power grids in that area were shut down to prevent electrocutions. However, the power companies had pre-staged crews from all over the United States came down into Florida to get ready for this storm, and they stayed in Orlando. And there's a big fairground where all of the electrical companies pre-stage. And then after the hurricane, they brought back the power grid very, very slowly as the power crews from all, like I said, all over the country came to help restore the power to that area. And there are still places that don't have power because the power grid has not been fully restored. So very, very careful, and only properly trained people are allowed to go out with the power grid teams to do that. And the reason why they come to Florida is because when the north and the central part of the country or in the west, if they had earthquakes, the Florida Power and Light people would go out and help. The Power and Light people are absolutely amazing, the way they have their interconnections and their abilities to work together. It's really a good example for everybody.
Okay, you are one of 3 different section managers for the state of Florida. Was the ARRL involved with you guys during this thing to make sure your needs were being taken care of?
Yes, in Florida, for stuff like this, all 3 sections have decided to become Florida. We have a tri-section crew. All for the 3 section managers, the 3 section emergency coordinators, and the 3 section traffic managers all work together. And we worked very carefully with Newington. And we contacted them. We actually had conference calls twice a day, and we had a call with Newington once a day. We have pre-staged down here some of the go kits that ARRL has. My section has 4, West Central has 3, and I think North Florida has 5. So we have kits available if they're needed for emergency communication. So we work very closely together. We have a ESF2 liaison to the state EOC. So if the state EOC needs ham radio, we can communicate with them and they can communicate with us. They have a Florida SARNet station in the state EOC, so we can communicate. The state can communicate with the different counties, and the counties can communicate with the state over amateur radio.
Okay, on the subject of the kits that they sent you from the league, I understand that they have in recent times have added sound cards and other things needed for like WinLink and other digital communications. Did you see any of that in the kits?
That's correct. All of the kits that we have the ability to do digital communications. We sent them back, and they sent them back to us, fully modified.
Okay, don't let me do all the talking, folks. Got some more questions out there?
And part of this is there's a serious insurance problem. A lot of the people who had their property and their houses destroyed don't have flood insurance, property insurance. And like I said, the state is winding up, they have an insurance company of last resort, and the state is winding up picking up a lot of the insurance costs. So this is part of the problem, is getting the people, a lot of the people don't want to leave because they love living in Florida, but with very difficult. And Dave, no, mutual aid volunteers were not needed because we could have if we needed to, but we didn't need to. You do a lot of mutual aid. We do have mutual aid teams to go around, but fortunately, most of the communications held up enough so that the local people were able to work in shifts and to be able to handle most of the needs. But we're part of the emergency management contract to get mutual aid from out of state if we needed it. So yeah, it would have been needed. We have the plan if we needed it, and fortunately, we didn't.
Very good. Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Looking for some more questions out there, folks.
And a lot of our people are doctors, or they're EMTs, or they're nurses, or paramedics, and we won't deploy people that have medical conditions that might need help as a volunteer. And we also have psychological teams. And I'm doing another presentation on post-traumatic stress syndrome and other psychiatric and psychological stresses that volunteers have when they respond to disasters, which is a very interesting presentation. And I'll be doing that in a little while.
Okay.
And yes, we did handle quite a few health and welfare messages out of state for shelter residents and regular residents.
I know that when I was deployed to a disaster for the Red Cross, I had to go through a physical. They want to make sure that I wasn't as bad as I looked, I think.
It doesn't do any someone is going to be a responder to have care to the responders. You have to be in pretty decent shape if you're going to respond to something like that, because you don't want to be part of the problem. You want to be a solution.
Well, everything, you're out of your comfort zone, you're in a stress situation, you've got long hours, you're working, and it's taking a toll. So if you go into a situation like that, already having problems, you are now one of the problems.
Yep, and that's why doing a contract like we did with the school, it was good for the kids, it was good for the teachers, it was also good for the hams, because it got them back into a little bit of a routine using ham radio. So that gave the Fort Myers guys a great psychological boost.